What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name is Stephen Wright. I am joined by Mr. William Monroe. Got another mini mock here for you today. Will, you want to give us the details?
Yeah, so today we've got a 14-team PPR Mock Draft, and I'm going to be at the 6th spot, and you have drawn the unfortunate, or fortunate, I guess we'll find out here, 14 spot turn.
Probably unfortunate.
We will see. You're going to have two top 15 players.
Yeah, then I'll have a very long wait. So we'll see how it goes. You ready to get started?
Yeah, pitter patter.
Awesome. So it looks like at the 101, we had McCaffrey, Barkley, Zeke, Kamara, and Michael Thomas go off the board. You're on the clock.
All right. So really, in this 14-team format, I definitely want to make sure I get one of those top running backs, especially sitting here. So for me, it is between Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, and then that comes down to format. If it's a half-point PPR, maybe could go either way. I think Clyde, because it's full point, Clyde, kind of slots in with Henry, maybe even slightly ahead. But I'm going to take someone I've taken a lot recently, I think, in Dalvin Cook. I think he's going to get the same workload, maybe a little less, on the ground than Derrick Henry. But I do think that offense is going to run through Minnesota's offense is going to run through Cook, and he's going to get a lot of looks through the air as well. So pretty easy pick here to go with Cook. Still got a lot of receivers on the board. If Cook was gone, probably would have gone Clyde over Derrick Henry here based on the format. But we're going to lock in Cook here and see what happens after that. After I take Cook, goes Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as we just said, Devontae Adams, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyreek Hill, and Julio Jones.
Oh boy, this is a spot to be in. I'm not a fan of this. On the board at running back, we got Eckler, Sanders, Drake, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb. I'm not the biggest Eckler fan this year. I mean, I like him. He just worries me a little bit with the overall offensive regression. While Sanders has the injury concerns, and now so does Kenyon Drake. So I think he'll play it safer here. I'm going to grab two running backs at the turn. And one's a slam dunk. That's Josh Jacobs. I think we both like him. That's an easy one. He's going to have plenty of PPR upside. He's solid. The other one is going to be Nick Chubb. That's the one I'm a little shakier on. Just partially given the format, because he's not going to catch up many passes, but also because we saw he was a running back 2 last year once Hunt came back, and that's kind of worrisome. But I don't want to gamble on Drake and Sanders, especially in this format. I mean, I got a long wait before I get to pick anyone again, so it's not like I'm going to get some super high quality running back to pair there and help out with the risk. So I'm going to play with a little bit of a risk-averse stance. We're going to grab those two and see if anybody could sneak their way through on the next turn. If not, probably going with some wide receivers, but we'll see. Like I said, I got the long wait. Austin Eckler goes off the board. Kenyon Drake, Miles Sanders, Travis Kelce, Chris Godwin, Aaron Jones, and Allen Robinson. You're on the clock.
All right, so on the clock here, we've got all of our quarterbacks, just Kelce off the board at tight end, and then we're looking at the wide receivers, Kenny Galladay, DJ Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mike Evans, Adam Thielen, Odell Beckham, and then at running back, we're looking at Todd Gurley, Fournette, Chris Carson, James Conner. Not looking at the running back position here, given that I've got Cook. It's going to be, most teams are going to be pretty rough at certain positions, so I'm pretty confident in RB1. So I want to get a wide receiver or tight end here. Given that Kittle's still available, that is tough to pass up. He is the only option at tight end that I'm looking at. Wide receiver between Kenny Galladay and DJ Moore. But there's still quite a few wide receivers that I like, and while it's not a short turn, it's somewhat of a turn. So I can hope that a couple more of these running backs maybe go off the board. So I think given a 14-team league, it's going to be a lot more difficult to try to play the pick up a tight end, waiver wire for both that and quarterback probably to a degree as well, but much more difficult at tight end. So I'm going to go with the early tight end here. Feels a little earlier here than usual, but, being that it's 209 and there's only been 14 picks, or, pretty much at the end of the second round in a regular 12-team league. So probably right around where the ADP is. So we're going to lock in Kittle and see what gets back to me out of the running back and wide receiver position. So there goes two quarterbacks, Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Leonard Fournette, Kenny Galladay, and Chris Carson to end the second round. Third round is Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr., DJ Moore, Todd Gurley, and Adam Thielen. So if we're looking at quarterbacks, where those top two go off, tight ends still those top two, so we're not looking at either of those positions. Taking a look at the running back position, we've got James Conner, Le'Veon Bell, Melvin Gordon, David Johnson, and Jonathan Taylor at wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, Amari Cooper, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley. Still AJ Brown, DJ Chark a little lower down. Probably looking at, if I'm going to go wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, Amari Cooper, maybe Robert Woods, but I think that the position, while it's not going to be crazy good in the next round, I think it's still going to be deeper than the running back position. So I think if I wait another round, it's really going to be pretty rough. So I want to strike at the running back that I want here, and given that I've got, I think, a little bit of safety in Cook, I'm not terribly worried about the holdout. I think that's kind of over. Obviously, still some injury concerns, but I think that he should be pretty safe. So I'm going to look away from the left bell to David Johnson, and we'll look for more of an upside guy. So that comes down to James Conner or Jonathan Taylor. As much as I do think there's some big upside with James Conner, I'm not thrilled about him being healthy. I think is the big thing. So I think I'm going to actually reach a bit here and go for a running back that I like. I don't know that he would get back to me. There's definitely a chance. I guess kind of wobbling here on the board because there is still, a couple of other running backs in that area that are available. I don't know if you would let them go, but maybe there would be a chance. Actually, I think I'm going to pivot here and go wide receiver. I do think Juju and Cooper are kind of a step above, even Woods to a degree as well, the rest of the pack there. So I'm going to go with a guy that I think has, upside, but I think has, week-to-week floor in Juju Smith-Schuster, whereas Cooper has a ton of upside, but I think he's going to be a little more inconsistent week-to-week. So I'm actually going to pivot here, and we're going to go with Juju Smith-Schuster to get my first wide receiver here. I'm going to see what's available at running back and wide receiver, not lock myself into having to take a wide receiver next round, depending on what gets back. So we're going to lock in Juju. After Juju goes Amari, AJ Brown, Mark Andrews, Le'Veon Bell, Zach Ertz, Cooper Kupp, and James Conner to you.
Awesome. So we'll run down the positions real quick. We got all our quarterbacks outside of Lamar and Mahomes. We got all our tight ends outside of Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, and Ertz. At the running back position, we got Melvin Gordon, David Johnson, Jonathan Taylor, Mark Ingram, David Montgomery, and Kareem Hunt. And then at the wide receiver position, Robert Woods, Calvin Ridley, DJ Chark, Keenan Allen, and Tyler Lockett. Among others, it's a difficult spot to be. It's hard looking at all the wide receivers and thinking that I got to pass on some of them. Because originally I was thinking maybe I would just grab one wide receiver and one running back here, considering running back's just going to keep thinning out, and I got to wait so long between my picks. I mean, if I grab two wide receivers here, I'm going to be looking at like a Jordan Howard as my third running back, which I'm okay with. but I'd really prefer him being my fourth. With that in mind, I don't love everyone on the board. Melvin Gordon's fine. David Johnson's fine. Jonathan Taylor could have a lot of upside. He could be okay. Ingram's fine. Montgomery's kind of interesting. Kareem Hunt's kind of interesting, but they all also feel like reaches. But you also got to reach on the turn sometimes. So I guess we will play the game and see what happens when I get to my last pick in the 5th round and see what kind of running backs are there. So I'll grab 2 wide receivers now, and we'll just see what happens. I'm really curious who's going to be there. You know, maybe I get lucky and like a Swifter and Akers comes through if there's some strong runs in here. Going to need some quarterbacks to go. And already some of the top tight ends are going to go. I'm not sure who else is going to go from a tight end landscape. I'm sure somebody will go, but it's going to be tough. Plus, you're staring down you, who's only got 1 running back. You're liable. I mean, you're definitely taking 1. I would imagine you're probably taking 2. A lot of other teams already have 1, too. So it's probably a bad gamble to make. But for the sake of the mock and demonstrating, I'm going to make it. So we're going to grab my safe guy in Robert Woods. We're going to grab my upside guy in DJ Chark. We'll play the game. We'll see what kind of running backs get back to me for my final pick. Calvin Ridley goes off the board. Cortland Sutton, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett. That's a nice little wide receiver run that I needed. David Johnson, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson. So 2 more quarterbacks. So everything's coming up Steve so far. Will, on the clock.
All right. I took a look, man. I like your team so far. It's definitely looking pretty solid, even in the 14-team league out of that spot. So we'll see how you end it here. On the board, not looking quarterback. I know a couple went there. Still got Dak and Kyler in that tier. And then those top 4 tight ends are gone, but I've already got one, so not looking there. At wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Devontae Parker, T.Y. Hilton, Diggs, Boyd are the top guys available. Still got some safe options in Jarvis and Boyd a little later. So I think I'm going to hold off on looking at a safer option. If I'm going to go wide receiver, probably going to go with McLaurin or DK Metcalf. But I don't know that I can pass running back, especially with the guy, Jonathan Taylor, that I was considering with my previous pick here. We're not going to have, full draft to be able to really lengthen out the strategy here, but I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor, and then likely not in the next round unless, one of the bigger running backs come back. But looking for a safer option probably in the next few rounds to kind of plug in ahead of him. Maybe even go with the Marlon Mack a little later. I don't know. We typically go with handcuffs, but maybe a position here in a 14-team league. So we'll go Jonathan Taylor and see what gets back here. Taylor off the board, Melvin Gordon, Devontae Parker, DK Metcalf, AJ Green, McLaurin, Fuller, Mark Ingram, T.Y. Hilton, Stephon Diggs, and Darren Waller. So still got David Montgomery and Kareem Hunt, 2 very viable options to pair with the kind of upside, but possibly not immediate impact that I'm going to get out of Jonathan Taylor. Wide receiver, we still got Tyler Boyd, Jarvis Landry, 2 guys I mentioned there, which are good safe options at wide receiver. I think given that the position is so much deeper, you can get a safer option in a Crowder, a guy in Sterling Shepard that I know that you've been rising on, or even like a Golden Tate later on to pair with maybe another upside wide receiver in the next few rounds. So I think I'm going to look back to the running back position, especially since I didn't get my second one until the 4th round. Want to double dip here just to get some safety at that kind of just very valuable position in a league like this where, 506 is actually pick 62. So definitely kind of feels like you're drafted in the 6th, maybe even close to the 7th round at this point in a normal draft. So we are looking at David Montgomery or Kareem Hunt. Both, I think, are safer options. David Montgomery kind of proved last year that he got the work, but wasn't able to really get the efficiency down. So you're going to be relying on touchdowns with him, whereas I think in a PPR league, Kareem Hunt, I think he gets on the field with Chubb at times to get catches, but even maybe, run some wide receiver as well. So I think with the safety option, I'm going to go Hunt here as my RB3, likely maybe even slots in the start while we see what we have with Jonathan Taylor, and kind of pound the wide receiver position, in the next few rounds had we actually continued to go full draft. So after Hunt, Devin Singletary, Jarvis Landry, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Dak Prescott, David Montgomery, Cam Akers, and Kyler Murray to you.
Yeah, so my gamble actually paid off quite well. I mean, we got running backs, DeAndre Swift, Raheem Mostert, Ronald Jones, Jordan Howard. I mean, we got plenty of good options, some that I'm comfortable with as my 3. At the wide receiver position, we still got Boyd, Gallup, Edelman, Marvin Jones, Brandon Cook. So plenty of good options there. We're at the turn. We're on our last pick. I'll just spell out both of them since I'm on the turn here. I feel I trust probably Mostert more, but also Ronald Jones a little bit here. So I'm going with one of them. I think I probably lean almost maybe Ronald Jones just because of San Francisco and what they do there and how they're constantly changing people out. So I think I lean Ronald Jones there. And, you could get by grabbing 2 wide receivers, I think. 2 running backs, like grabbing a Mostert. Then it gives me 4 through 6 rounds. It gives me a lot of availability to grab wide receivers later, but I think you're going to be in a tier that I'm not super happy in, looking at the CeeDee Lamb, Debo, Golden Tate kind of tier, and I'd rather have somebody else for my 3. So I would draft another wide receiver here. Probably Gallup gives me a nice floor and some upside, but I'm comfortable doing the either or. So Ronald Jones is going to be my pick to give me my 3rd running back. That's going to wrap up our picks here. Will, you want to run down your team? We do got to be a little bit quicker here.
Yeah, so we got Dalvin Cook in the 1st, George Kittle in the 2nd, Juju in the 3rd, Jonathan Taylor in the 4th, and Kareem Hunt in the 5th. Kind of hard to evaluate because I'm not personally in any 14-team leagues myself, so it definitely feels a little shallow, but kind of just telling myself that 14-team league makes it a little thinner across the board. Don't hate it. I think I'm going to be able to get some wide receiver depth, in the next couple rounds here. But I do like the running back position I'm in, given that I've got that positional advantage with Kittle. What about you?
I like my team. So drafting out of the 14 spot, that's a turn. We went Josh Jacobs in the 1st, Nick Chubb, Robert Woods, DJ Chark, and Ronald Jones. You said it earlier when you're picking your 4th round. I like this team. My running backs are solid with Jacobs and Chubb, and then I'm comfortable with Jones as a 3. Robert Woods and Chark gives me some safety and some upside. Like I said, in the 6th, I can add more safety if I want to go with like a Boyd or an Edelman. I could take some upside shots on Gallup or that Marvin Jones kind of a play. And then, that gives me ultimate flexibility moving forward. If like you said, I've been rising on Sterling Shepard. If he gets to me, Christian Kirk falls through. They take an upside shot on Anthony Miller, Darius Slayton, someone like that. Turn around and add another running back. Maybe Matt Breida gets to me. Marlon Mack, you had mentioned, Tevin Coleman, eventually take a shot on Antonio Gibson. So, I have a lot of flexibility moving forward, and the pieces that are left, I'm comfortable being in the position on my team that they would be in. So, overall, I like it. For a 14-team team, I like it a lot. I'm kind of surprised. So that's going to wrap up today's mock draft. Tune in tomorrow for a full mock. In the meantime, trust your board.